Good afternoon. So it's a beautiful sunny day. I've got a break between clients and doing some teaching later, so I thought I would record another video to help you to liberate your minds. So I wanted to carry on from the theme of relationships. And this video I'm about to do is inspired by a really good friend of mine who has recently just gone on a trip to somewhere he'd always wanted to go. He's gone to do like specific activities in that place. He came up with the idea, he's like, I've got to get away. Booked his trip, 6 weeks in paradise, doing activities he's wanted to do for a long time. He goes there, it's amazing, right? Has a couple of weeks already in, and he starts texting me saying that he's homesick. And that he's lonely. And I was like, well, surely you could make some friends when you're there. He's like, made loads of friends. That's not the problem. It's the people that matter that aren't there, right? So his partner, his friends, right? So he's in this amazing place. He's got everything he's wanted. He's there for 6 weeks. And he's not even halfway through, and he's already kind of like, oh, it's not quite what I thought it was going to be. And it got me thinking, about that quote. I think I've seen a meme going around of, I think Robin Williams saying, you can be surrounded by people and still be lonely. And it's not about the quantity of people that you've got in your lives. It's about the quality of those connections. And it kind of made me start to think about my situation a lot, because, you get these YouTubers, these influencers coming online, and they appear to have their lives all together, and they're giving you like these pearls of wisdom and advice. But you never really know what's going on behind the scenes. And there was a quote I heard recently about, you can have anything, but you can't have everything. Now, what that means is, in order to achieve something, like mastery in something, it takes a lot of focus, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of attention, it takes a lot of effort. And it got me thinking again about, my own situation. And to do, I changed careers at 35. And a lot of people were quite surprised that I would do that, and they were saying, don't you have a plan B? And I was like, no, I don't need a plan B. I know what I want to do. I'm going to make it happen. And I have. And, 8 years later, I've got a thriving business, of private clients. I now have an app. I teach, I supervise, I do all of this stuff. However, the downside of that is that I've had very little social life. I've been single pretty much that whole time. And, there's two ways of looking at, I'm not saying I'm a master or anything like that, but, there's two ways of looking at someone that's really achieved something. It's like, yes, the achievement of that thing, but it's about all the sacrifice, all of the things they've had to go without to get to that stage. Now, I'm talking mainly now about, sports stars and, people that have really achieved what they've achieved. And, you've got to ask yourself, knowing that statistically people that don't have decent connections in your life die earlier, right? They get health complaints. They are more likely to get Alzheimer's and stuff like that. So again, it kind of begs the question, at what point do you say, is it worth it? And it's about balance. So you don't need lots of connections in your life, but you do need quality connections, right? At least one person in your life that that if you were in a bind, you could ring them up, they would drop what they were doing, and they would be there for you. And I had a call recently from a good friend of mine, and she was saying that she'd been in a bit of a crisis, and she honestly felt that there wasn't anyone that she could turn to. And I I said to her, you can always call me, but she didn't realize that. Like if you've got people in your life that don't know that you're that guy or that girl that will be there for them, then tell them. Only if you mean it, of course. Otherwise, you might get calls in the middle of the night. But the point, I turned my phone off at night, but what I said was, you can come around and ring the bell and I will wake up and I will let you in. That's fine. So again, it's all about the connections that you have. Do not take these people for granted, and make sure you're cultivating that. I think one thing that the lockdown situation taught people was, they had to stop and really evaluate their lives and get a sense of what was important. And when you're someone that is a bit of a workaholic, you could say I'm a workaholic, but I don't really feel like it's work to me. I literally love it. I create communities of therapists so that because we all work on our own, right? These coaches, these therapists. So I create groups and I bring these people together, and we have like a free call every week, and everyone chips in and says what's going well. Is there anything they want to bring up? Do they need support? That kind of stuff, because it can be that isolation. And, it's nice to make sure that everybody knows that there is a place they can go and feel that connection. I think that's what sort of sets my groups apart from some of the other ones that are just all business all of the time. So, I'm just as guilty as a lot of people for not taking the time to make an effort to get that balance right. And that is, now I've got to a certain level, it's going to be about getting back out there, doing some dating. You don't take it for granted, because I know a lot of people, again, that even though they're single, they have kids, right? Or they have pets, and they have that connection in terms of that unconditional love from a pet, or their kids hug them. They have that kind of intimacy and connection. And I was with a friend the other day, and she gave me a proper hug, and I was like, wow, like this is missing, right, from my life. And so don't take that for granted either. Like, there'll be people that will be sat on the same sofa as them, and they're both on their phones, like at the opposite ends of the sofa. And obviously everyone's got different preferences. Not everyone's about physical touch and intimacy in that way. Sometimes they have other ways of showing that they love each other. But human contact is important. And so even if you've just got a pet, it can make all the difference. And they say, they can measure the stress relief when you're stroking your pet, or you're having a hug. It releases serotonin and lots of lovely chemicals. It raises your immune system and all the rest of it. And making sure that you're making the time to connect. And maybe there's someone in your life, like I had a good friend of mine today, and I hadn't heard from her for about 3 or 4 weeks. So I just sent her a nice voice note and said, look, I'm just checking in, making sure you're okay. And I got the loveliest message back saying, thank you so much. I really appreciate the fact that you're checking in with me. Not many people take the time to do that. So it doesn't take much to make a real difference in people's lives. But it makes all the difference. Like, that message took me a couple of seconds to text, and I got a really long message back saying how much she appreciated that. So do what you can and make sure you get some balance and cultivate the important connections you have in your life, and let people know that you're there for them if you want to be. That's my message for today. So I'm going to go and enjoy the sun. Have a good one.